Hello, we're going to do another face-off today, but slightly different. We're going to do a follow-up video from my last video with the Cruff. I don't think nobody knows. Not many razor these about. Not that it's rare, as I say, but quick. Some custom scales, and we're going to be going against the Crown and Sword 1166, excuse me, from Mr. Earn, probably one of the most prolific razor makers of the day. Some of the best as well, I find. I really do believe they are some of the best, and especially, well, the damn near shoulderless, stabiliserless. The Cruff has now got, well, my Charney Forest edge on it. Let's see how it goes. So I sharpened it through, it was really sharp on the Shapton 12,000. I took it back to the 2000 with no tape. I chased it to the edge, to the bevel, and then I went 5,000, and then I went Tammy Shanta. I can't remember if I used my dark stone that nobody seems to know what it is. It's either a Scots stone or maybe a Welsh Yellow Lake stone. I'm kind of sliding towards the Yellowstone stones from what I've been looking at. And then 12,000 Shapton again, just to make sure I've got that kind of like mirror edge all the way to the bevel. And I know where I'm at with that, you see. It's like, you know, sometimes I think that Shapton 12,000 can be too sharp. It can be too sharp. So anyway, after the 12,000, I've took it back to the Charney, and we've had a go on the old Charney. I've pretty much followed what the chap I bought it off, he said about. So I'm just checking out my nails. He said like 2,000, it felt like 2,000. 200 laps, and then kind of like backwards with the blade, like they pretended to strop for like 10 laps or something, and then I think he used it on a bit of paste or something and something like that, and creating slurry to begin with, and then it was so many laps on the old like normal strop and So I put it on my Dia something, the DMT plate, the one that's like supposedly meant to be scientifically, cryogenically, scientifically measured as like this most perfect accuracy. Where it's so old, my one is, because I actually got it kind of tested by somebody that I know. He took it to work and he put it on an engineering plate that gets tested, I don't know, every month or something it gets tested, and it was within its tolerances and everything. So my Dia plate is flat. The old diamonds are a bit sparse on it now, but it's good actually for dealing with natural stones and that, because you don't want it to leave any diamonds behind, and I don't think that one would anymore because it takes forever to flat. So anyway, my Charney Forest, it weren't flat. I bought it flat. I think one man's flat is another man's dished. I'm not knocking either at all, because I appreciate the input that the dude put in it and stuff like that. But yeah, when you put my straight edge, so I've got straight edges that, again, they're certified, because I do carpentry and stuff, and you've got to have at least 2 or 3 straight edges that are proper. I forget what make mine is. It's an old vintage straight edge. It's 900mm long. It's proper good. Really heavy. Anyway, there was like about 1.5 mil in the middle. Seemed like nothing. Took about 2 hours, hour and a half I think it was, yeah, on the Dia plate. And I got it so flat, and then literally the middle bit weren't doing nothing. So I put it onto a higher grit, just a DMT plate, and then that helped it along. That sped it up a bit. Put it back on the Dia plate, and then went through the grits on it up to about 1,000 grit, I think. But I've got to do it again because there were some scratch patterns on it that I weren't too happy with when it dried. So that razor's come off of a recently flattened stone, so I kind of appreciate it's not going to be its best edge, and I will be able to get the Charney better whatever way you look at it, which is good. But I was desperate to give it a bit of a go, and it took me a few days to be able to get it, so I was just eating pizza, some of it. It's almost like going swimming, isn't it? Apart from having a shave after you've eaten. Otherwise, I'm really happy with it. It's really pretty when it's wet and everything. And I flattened my purple Welsh slate as well, so I'm going to give that a whirl as a finishing stone. Again, I'm going to do the same routine, take it to 12, and then put it back on to the Welsh slate and just see what it does. Oh, I forgot to say after as well, so with this Cruff, whatever it is, I put, I've got this little strop, you know, the ones that tighten up so long, kind of two sides leather, you tighten it up, goes, you know, tight, and you slacken it off after you've used it. So one side's got the original green sort of paste or whatever it is that was on it, so I don't know what was on it. I think that was factory on it. And you're talking, it's a vintage thing, like, you know, it's talking, it's at least 60s, 70s, maybe 80s. It's a crop one, so I need to check really, because I don't know when crop was around. Crop were around. So anyway, it might be a bit older than that, but yes, crop one. It does seem like it's got the original green side on it, because I've had a look and they did come out with greens. And on the other side, I put some THK 0.25 micron diamond paste on it. And I've only done 10 laps of the green and roughly 10 laps of the diamond. Because the Charney edge, and I think it's the same with a lot of Japanese edges as well, like they're meant to be a bit, almost like microscopically toothy. So it's almost like trying to saw you on a very microscopic level. So anyway, I don't know too much about natural stones, so I don't like talking about it too much because I don't know that much about natural stones. This is the first natural edge I'm actually going to shave off. And I've always stayed away from natural stones because I've bought so bloody many that are meant to be finishers and whatnot, and they've turned out terrible, man. Like crap, under the microscope, like taking chunks of the edge off. That's what they've been doing, and it's certainly not my technique, because I can loosen my technique right up. And when I say loosen, I mean probably tighten, meaning like very, very softly, man. You know, I've got quite a soft hand when I need to be on my builder, so it's it's not my technique, it's the stones. And I find a lot of the slate based stones are not that great finishers. Like, don't get me wrong, I imagine there's some brilliant ones out there, I'm not saying that, but on the whole there's a lot that ain't. And I think the ones that ain't good finishers seem to do the bloody rounds, man. And I feel like just buying them, if they ain't good finishers, just chop them up, turn them into little finger stones and stuff, as like 5,000 grits or something, just so they can't get passed along this fucking chain of shaving finishers. So I'm after a Japanese stone. So if anybody knows one that's selling a decent finisher, that's kind of guaranteed to give a bit of a shiny edge, because this Charney Forest, it's got quite well, it's not quite actually, it's quite a hazy edge. You know, it's put some quite big, well, I won't say big scratches because they're not big scratches, they're way less than the Tam, they're way less than the what I believe is the Yellowstone finisher, and that is meant to be a finished a lot, so they're both less than them. But when you go from like a 12,000 Shapton that gives nearly a mirror finish, it's a bit concerning. Let's just say that, it's a bit concerning. It's interesting, obviously. Every time you go down a new route of sort of learning, you're always a bit apprehensive, and frankly you don't know what you're at like. And, you know, you can trot around the forums all you want, until you get doing, you don't know. And I don't care what anybody says. You know, you can read as much theory, you can watch all the YouTube videos you want, man, but you know, you don't learn much watching. You learn everything doing, especially if it's a doing thing. And that is the bloody problem with YouTube, man. You've got all these people thinking, oh, I can do that, oh, I can do that, oh yeah, I can do that, I can do that. Go on then, give it a go. Because if your background is not in it, you know, saying if you, for instance, you sat on a computer all day and you try and build a house, well, you're going to struggle, because you ain't got the mind-body control, basically. The other way around as well. You know, I mean, I've been a builder since I was 16, and God Almighty, you stuck me in an office Well, might turn into a falling down scene. But that's the thing, you see. We're all used to what we're used to. That's why you've always got to seek out people to learn. Well, if you want to learn quicker anyway. Right, so let's give it a whirl, man. Second show of the day today, just for the vid. Let's bloody see. First real wedge. I did a few experiments on one of my sort of sacrificial blades. It's got like really, it's called a Milton. And I forget the make, man, but from memory it's a really good make, and they were quite highly regarded. Like the steel's definitely good, like, because every time I mess around with it, putting on different edges and that, it always takes like a really good edge. So I know the steel's really good, but the homeware on it is tremendous. Like, so but then that's helpful when you're learning and practicing edges and stuff, because it puts a real nice, you know, wide bevel on it. It's like this bevel, look. Sorry, I know it takes a while to, but you struggle to see this even with your naked eye. Even in my pomp, which was my mid-20s, you'd have struggled to see like the full kind of aspect of it. I still think there's the tiniest of frowns on this. But once you get an edge on something, I bloody hate putting it near anything flat. Right, let's have a look then. Well, they say, they say the proof is in the pudding. Alright. And I'm not going to lie to you, this is the second shiny edge this razor's had on it. Because the first one, I looked under the microscope, I see the little scratches, I see the haziness, I see that it took away my perfect polished Shapton 12,000 edge, which is a good edge on most razors. The odd one, I believe it can be too sharp, it can be too bitey. And I was looking at this, oh, no way, man. So then I got the sacrificial one out, my Milton, my baseline of edge. And I was thinking, oh, it's damn the same to that. But then under sunlight, when I was trying to look under my microscope, all of a sudden I was like, hang on, those scratches probably don't look as bad as my brain's telling me. Because in sunlight, it's still really shiny. And again, I took that Milton all the way to 12, back down to 2, and then back through. And there we go. I thought that would really irritate. It really did. And in fact, it's a very smooth shave. I'd say it's probably not as smooth. Especially just, oh, hang on, I haven't shaved that bit. It's possibly maybe not as smooth on my skin. I mean, like the hair, but remember this is the first time, and I've not dressed that shiny as well as I'm gonna get it. Amazing. Yeah, so that's what I always say, man. The microscope only tells you so much. That's why when you start out, don't get a microscope, get a lope. Because the microscope gets too close, man. Get a nice little lope. Nothing too major. Yeah, nothing too fancy with a lope. You've always got to remember when you're starting out honing everything, the most important thing to do is create an invisible edge. And the invisible edge is when you're looking down on the razor with your lope, with your microscope, and you can't see the edge, like, and you can see it, don't get me wrong, you can see kind of the peak of it, but you won't see any form of like line, you know. And once you get really good at doing your edges and stuff, you'll struggle to see the peak. It will just go from side to side to side and then just disappear and gone, and then you'd be down there, like, you know, you'd be down, going down like the other side of the magnetoscope field. So there we go. It's my first shiny edge. I can definitely improve the stone. I can definitely improve my technique, because stone, like natural stones, from what everybody says, everything I've ever read, and that's going back years, I've always said there's a learning curve to your stone. So if the fella who I bought this off is seeing this, I thank you very much. You're probably going to waste loads of my time in the future, but when I say waste, I do not mean waste. So let's give this crown sword razor extra hollow ground. And what they mean by the extra hollow is it's barely got a belly. See, the Germans, they love to put in a belly on the bottom of their razors to increase the stiffness and stop the flex, and it was supposedly, I believe, to help with tough beards and coarse hair, blah blah blah. And I believe they were probably correct. They were the Germans. They never got much wrong back in that day. It's got a little belly. It's got more of a belly at the heel. I'm being picky, as I am. See, I sharpened this razor when I was on holiday in a lovely log cabin. And if I was going to be hypercritical, that feels sharper, if you know what I mean. Like, on the skin, still incredibly smooth, but if anything, the Charlie edge was better. And it's quite a good razor to compare it to as well. They're almost like little Filis, some of them hands, with the damn near shoulderless and the stabiliserless. Yeah, if I was going to be mega picky, which I like to be, I'd say the Charlie Forest is probably left just a tiny bit more down there, but then that could have been a bit of technique. But that's barely noticeable, and I'll definitely say that the Charlie Forest was a smoother shave. It felt better on the skin, and that's what I've been reading about. Like, so the naturals, they take it down, like, you know, they take that harshness down kind of thing. Don't get me wrong, you know, you get one high-end finishing that compared to another, it's going to be well different. You get one Charlie Forest compared to another, it's going to be wildly different, because surely you only have to be mining a bit of stone from, you know, a metre away, God, more, even a foot away sometimes, and it's going to be having characteristics that are very different. You know, I've always been of the opinion that if you've got a stone that's got loads of inclusions in, it's probably not going to be as good that one has got like less in, especially if it's quite a dramatic colour change. I think that stands quite fast with at least some Charnies. And I think Charnies can be some of the most prettiest stones there is. Like, quite like my downwall blues. I ain't got none at the moment, but they're not a finishing stone. Went a bit over the board there, boy, didn't you? Right, over the board. Right, let's go against the grain, the old Charney. Yeah, well, going against the grain, that's when your razor will show you going against the grain is when your razor will show you how capable it is at the job at hand, the task at hand. And that is showing me that that is pretty impressive for my first Charney. I'm happy, I'm chuffed. Because I like to, yeah, the first edge I put on, well it's that one actually, like gently put it on so I didn't waste too much metal. I was just sitting there looking, oh man, what have I bought? Bought another stone that's just tacked. But what it's made me realise is, some of them stones that I possibly thought were a bit tacked, looking at them, might not have been. So like I said, I've got this Welsh slate. Well, I know it's definitely a Welsh purple slate because I got it from a dude who I fully trust. He specialises in tools. He's been doing it well since the 70s. I think it was his dad, and I think that's the son. He's still, well, it is the son. He's took it over, or is it the daughter, and then it's the husband. Anyway, whoever. Been doing it a long time, man, and he knows his homes, especially his British homes. Like, he ain't got much to do with razors and stuff, so he can't guarantee when he sells you a stone that it's, you know, like razor hone finisher. But what he does know is the stone, and it was definitely a Welsh slate. The urn's doing what most urns do, plucking air stumps off. Yeah, it's a close shave that is, yeah. Lovely. Don't feel as comfortable though. That's what I mean. So like when some people first start out with straights, like I lucked into it, I really did. I must have done. That first razor that I got to shave ready, that little tiny, well, even tiny, but it feels it now. Solingen, Weld shipper. And from memory, he was a dude who did a lot of shipping. But they were meant to be good razors. I must have just lucked into it, man. Because a lot of people, when they start with the straights, it's a bit hard. Like they get a shave ready one from somebody, and it's a bit harsh. That's why every single razor I sell that's shave ready is I've shaved with it. Like, I wouldn't even sell one like one of my shave readies without shaving with it. It's as simple as that, like, because, well, that Charney edge is proof in the pudding. It really is. You know, I'd have looked at that and I'd have been like, no way. Under the microscope, I'd have been like, that's got to go back on the stones. That's too sort of scratchy. You know, the scratches are perfectly uniform. They really are. too hazy, all that kind of stuff. But again, it's because I don't know much about gnats. And, you know, I'd have deemed that unshave worthy. That weren't passing most hair tests from the stones. To be fair, I didn't check it after that bit of chromo and a bit of diamond paste and the stropping. It's nearly up, well, it was 100 apps on the strop. So it might have started popping hairs a bit, but it was cutting hairs off my arm like nobody's business. Not as good as my Philip Monica 4 barbers, because I don't think I'm ever going to get a razor that beats that. But it just goes to prove, you know, until you shave with it, you don't know. Like, you really don't know. Like, I can tell you now for nothing, that Charney edge, is less irritating. Like, I don't really suffer from irritation. So when I say irritation, just that slight feeling you get, because I don't really get irritation. I might do when I get a bit older and that, when you start drying out. But I can tell you now for nothing, the Charney was a nicer edge to shave with. It's definitely not as close. Just there. That's always been my problem areas. But again, I might not just put enough attention into that area with the Charney. But I'd choose comfort and a close, because it is close. You can hear it, you know, it's not. Shave any day over. So I'd choose a comfort in shave over closeness any day. Like, you know, I really would. I've got a nice little. I'll stop that. I've got a nice little. I don't do much razor shaving stuff, but I figured, well, I get so many going through my hands, picking up job lots of razors, trying to find the razor I want in it. I'm going to start doing a few DE razor shaves. Anyway, so I've got a nice little Matador, and I've shaved with Matadors before, and I sold one only like a couple of weeks ago. It was quite pristine, just had a tiny little chip in it on the plating. And this one's the same as it, but I swear it's slightly different, so I need to go through my photos and give it a double check, like, because if it's different, I've shaved with that one before, and a couple of other ones that I know were the same as that. It's a bit different, you know. The terminology of D is not great, but you got the top plate, and then you got like the guard, the plate underneath the guard. The front of the guard that's sandwiches between the top plate, it had basically like a bit of a wider edge. The one I sold to the one I've got now, I'm sure it did, man. I'm sure it did. So I've got to check out my photos, and if it's different, I'm going to give that a bit of a shave. Even if I do like a face off with 2 straight razors on my cheeks, and then do the neck with a DE, just so I can give it a whirl, because I'm going to sell that as well. And the reason I'm going to sell that is because I've got a CV safety razor coming that is going to be my keeper. I'm going to sell all my Gillette adjustables and any that I get in the future. I'm just going to vamp up a bit and pass on, give them a good old service and whatnot. Because the only reason I keep a DE is because I know one point in my life I won't be able to shave with the old straights. Too doddery is called in this country. You get too doddery. Ooh, ooh, and then I won't even be able to see the bloody thing, frankly. You know what I mean? You get into your 80s and you can't really see, right? So, most people anyway, you know, unless you're God's given. So yeah, that's what I've always kept, like one of my best. I've always just rotated my best adjustables, basically. Always kept the best and then rotated the others around, sold them. But this CV, I think that's it. It's got little wedge blades, man. Little wedge blades. It's just, they look so fancy. I don't know, they're made by Swedish steel, so I'm sold. I'm sold. Right, gonna love you and leave you. Clean my tools down, dry them, strop them, get the little one to bed. Job's a good one for the day. I'll see you later. I hope you've had a good day. Toodaloo.